Hey everyone, my name is Adi. In this tutorial we will paint this pond with fish. We will learn how to create a complete painting with many elements. When there are a lot of things it can look difficult to draw, right? But when you think about it, the water lilies' leaves are just a bunch of circles and the fish are ellipses. You don't have to draw them exactly as they are. Actually, I want you to create your own compositions. If your paper is big enough, I recommend to divide it into different sections and to draw a painting with a different composition in each part. Place the fish and lily's leaves in different ways. There is no right and wrong. To learn more about composition types, you can check out the video about composition. Here are a few tips to achieve a natural looking scene. It's better if the fish face different directions. It's good to let things hide one another and to let elements go out of the frame. I like the way the eyes move in this photo. First draw circles and ellipses, and if you are happy with the result, you can add more details. After that, cover all the paper with clean water. Don't cover areas that you want to keep in white. You can also use masking fluid. I keep a distance from the masking tape because I want to create a more natural frame. I don't go over the area near the eye of this fish. Use a smaller brush to wet the paper more accurately around places that you want to keep white. Add the colors of the leaves and fish. If the color goes out of the shapes, it's actually better. I go over areas of the water too. We will be able to see the color through the next layers. So it's actually cool to paint the base layer with different colors from the colors that we will use later. This technique is called wet into wet. You can try out different colors in each painting. If the clean water has dried, you can wet the area again and then add color to it. Let the colors dry completely before you move on to the next stage. The colors will look lighter after they dry. I am starting to paint the areas of the water with blue. I will add a darker blue for the darker areas later on. We can still see the green of the base layer through the blue. Because the blue and the brown are both wet at the same time, the boundary between them will be soft. We create the leaves by surrounding them. We paint the negative space around them. The colors of the previous layer, including the colors that went out of the frame, add a charm, create harmony, and create dreamlike effect. It can also make things feel more dynamic. The fish are swimming around and the leaves move because of the wind. Let the color dry. Now I start to add shadows to the water and I will add light and shadow to the fish. The lines of the reflections are wavy. Because of the movement of the water, the reflections are distorted. There's usually a line of shadow near each leaf. The center of the fish tends to be in a lighter color. I like to create the light and shadow in layers because it's easier to control the paint. Every time you go with a darker paint, leave some of the lighter color. Don't cover everything. I start to add orange, but I don't cover all the fish. I leave the whites white. I create a white area for the eye by surrounding it with orange. I keep the light orange for some of the scales. And for an area of the head that goes out of the water. By making it darker beside the fish, it will make the fish pop out. You don't have to surround all of it. I gradually make the darker areas darker. I go over the edge of the fish with blue in the left side. I use the tip of the brush to draw thin lines on the fins. I hold the brush in 90 degrees to the paper. You can use a thinner brush if you want to. I make the boundary of the fish more defined. I add a dark dot for the eye. I keep a light frame around the dot. I make it darker beside the eye in order to make the eye more noticeable. I also add a darker line beside the top of the head where it goes out of the water. I keep adding more details and light and shadow to the fish. I add small dots to create a feeling of texture. This leaf casts shadow on the water. I add darker areas in the water and I make it darker near the leaves. I connect the shadows of the fish to the shadows of the water. Let's paint the leaves. I'm creating separation between them. Usually the leaves on the bottom are darker. The upper leaves cast shadow on the lower leaves in the connection point. I don't cover all of the leaf. It's important to keep lighter areas. There are puddles above some of the leaves. They create an interesting light and shadow. There's usually a lighter line in the surrounding of the leaf. I don't want to add too many details or shadows to the area near the frame. I want the edges to feel a little bit out of focus. I don't want them to take too much attention. When there are many things in a drawing, it's better to think which one is more important and not to treat all the elements with the same attention. Green leaves tend to have yellow in them. I can also see other colors too, like brownish red and purple. I break down the leaves into geometrical shapes. Sometimes it looks like they have lines that are thinner at one point and they become wider in the other point. Let's review the process, because the method we use today can be great for painting other things too. Step 1. Create a plan. It's good to start with general shapes, then break them down into smaller shapes and add details. Step 2. Background. Wet the paper with clean water. Add color in wet into wet technique. Step 3. Division. Go over the dark areas with new layer of paint and keep the lighter areas in the color of the background. Step 4. Add light and shadow and details to each area and element. The first time you do something can be challenging. Maybe you feel like a fish out of water. But the second time will be a little easier, and the third time will be even easier. This is another reason why I ask you to create more than one painting, because the more we practice, the better things get into our brain. I'm using brown. It's good to use the colors of the surrounding to create the shadows of the white fish. It's important not to cover all the white because there isn't a way to completely erase watercolor. I'm using lines to create the texture of the fins and dots to create the texture of the scales in the body. I also used purple in the shadow of the fish. I add the shadows around the fish. I will also add blue to the fish to connect it to the water. I'm adding yellow near the highlight, the area that is very white, to make it look shinier and whiter. It's good to look at the whole painting and to see how everything looks together, and to add final touches here and there where it's needed. I make the transition between the shadow of the white fish and the water around it softer in some places. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching until the end. I hope that you had fun. If it's your first time watching one of my videos, then don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next video. Bye bye.